Chris Gethard, welcome to Livewire.
It's a joy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to see you again. Last time I saw you was in Port Townsend, Washington, at a festival where there was lots of people. I know most of your work involves being in a room with crowds, which has been not how things have been working for the last year plus. How's that been for you? Were you trying to do like Zoom comedy or anything?
I quickly learned that Zoom comedy was not for me in the sense of trying to do stand-up. I found it, I feel like a lot of people were actually getting a lot out of it, and I don't disparage that, but for me, it just felt kind of like I need a crowd to tell me what's working and what's not. That's the point of doing small shows. So I did do some live stream stuff, and me and my friends teamed up on a Twitch channel called Planet Scum. We would all do shows there, but as far as trying to do stand-up on Zoom, I just said, this does not feel great. So I greatly miss live shows. I've done a few since New York really started lightening up, and it felt even better than I thought it would.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about this new special of yours, which, by the way, is Chris Gethard, Half My Life, is kind of watching you do crowd work and watching some of the listeners physically assault you on stage, et cetera. Like, I've always admired your comfort in not knowing how things are going to go on stage, whether it's your TV show you did on public access or even like just your podcast, Beautiful Anonymous, where you're taking a phone call. Has that something that you've always just been like comfortable with, like not knowing how it's going to go, or have you developed that muscle throughout your career?
I think both, to be honest. I think I came up at the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York when it was really in its golden age. So I would routinely be on stage with, I mean, I would do their Sunday night show, and sometimes the lineup would literally be Amy Poehler, Seth Meyers, Horatio Sands, Jason Sudeikis, and me. And I'd sit there and go, well, I'm never going to be the funniest one. Like my two best friends, I was on an improv team with Bobby Moynihan, who went on to SNL, and Zach Woods, who was on The Office, Silicon Valley. So I just went,
so funny.
I'm never going to be the funniest one. I'm pretty funny. I'm confident in that. But I started to realize I think I'm maybe the one who's most willing to be honest out of any of my peers. And I'm maybe the one who is willing to live in an uncomfortable moment more than a lot of my peers. So it's kind of born out of necessity. And then I really came to love it. And like you said, my TV show and podcast, I really just like, you know, it sounds like a cheesy thing, but I really like embracing chaos. I don't try to foment it when I'm doing stand-up, but if it happens, I sort of love it. And that's why shooting it at 10 venues and self-funding this were kind of, in some ways, not smart, but I knew it would allow me to sort of, 10 different venues. I'm like, I know myself well enough. One of those shows is going to fall apart in an interesting way. And self-funding it, I go, now nobody can give me notes. I feel like a lot of people who would give notes would say, let's not show the footage of the girl who got on stage in Baltimore and wrestled you to the ground.
I mean, it was like literally the first thing I brought up, though. So I guess good call leaving it in.
I think so. I think a lot of things that I do tend to confuse people with sort of creative or corporate mandates. So I feel like, all right, my stuff is not for everybody, but I know what works for the people who it is for, and it's things like that. It's that I keep hearing about the wrestling and the alligators. Those are the two things.
That's on the list.
Yeah, that's
We'll be getting to Gator Town here in a bit. Or Gatorworld. What is the name of it again?
Gatorland. Orlando, Florida. Highly recommend.
I was actually wondering about that when I was watching the special, was sort of the financial model of this thing, because you're playing pretty small places. You're playing to your like really true fans. You've brought kind of an opener, and you have a crew that's filming you. And so if you're paying for all this, I was worried that you were losing money on the front end of this rapidly.
Well, I'm happy to tell you that Comedy Dynamics, who's the distribution company, they paid me enough that after I give my agents and managers their cut, I'm only losing $2,000 to $3,000.
Hey!
for this type of thing is actually a victory. It's actually a victory.
Wait, if we
based
get
on what I
enough
spent
people
on it.
streaming it, though, I mean, can we get that up to a break even if people go to Vimeo or Amazon or iTunes?
I have been told that if enough people watch it, that I'll start to earn more money. And then I've also been quietly told there is almost no chance that's going to happen.
Like
so
book publishing.
it's not really how this works. But yeah, I tell you what, too, you see in the special, I had a son who was only a few months old, and my wife and I were planning on buying a house, which we've since done. So spending out of pocket on it, it's a tiny budget by the standards of an hour-long film that would be released, but it was very stressful for me. But I just based on how the past few years have been going for me, I said, I just have a gut instinct. This is something I need to do. And it is not perfect, but I think what it lacks in professionalism, it makes up for in heart, and I am proud of it.
And you were putting it together, I'm assuming, because all of the dates were booked in 2019, but then you're putting it together when you're in quarantine. So that must have been really interesting to kind of have this record of your career the year before, I don't know how long the tour was, but
It ended fall of 2019. So it really was like the last road gigs I did. It was so strange to just see, as we realized that the pandemic and quarantining was going to go on much longer than any of us anticipated. I'm sitting here going, wow, I'm watching all this footage. 3 of these venues closed in the course of the quarantine.
wow.
Part of, I love doing small independent spaces, but it's hardest for them to survive. I'm watching this footage going, I'm watching all these shows, and I don't know if live performances are going to feel like this ever again. It's like really weird. I hope they are. And then, you never want to say there's a silver lining to any of this. It's been horrible, but one of my hopes is that it's coming out right now as things are opening up again. And I hope people watch this thing and it gets them excited to go out again and to support artists again. And specifically, even more than an artist like me, to support that venue in your town that isn't necessarily the Live Nation Ticketmaster supported one. To go like, these are places that are community driven and they bring a lot to their communities. I hope people see it and go, man, it is fun. It is exciting to be in an environment like that.
Yeah, and watching it, that was exactly the feeling. I mean, selfishly, or to center me and Elena in the narrative, it's like we also do a show that generally speaking has a crowd, and we're not sure what it's going to look like this fall when we come back, if people are going to be comfortable coming indoors and all that. But watching this comedy special really got me excited for that energy of a room full of people to do this kind of stuff. So we have to take a really quick break here on Livewire. We're talking to Chris Gethard. His new comedy special is Half My Life. It's out on Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, and definitely check it out. Quick break, and then we'll be back with more Livewire in just a moment. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I'm Luke Burbank here with Elena Passarella. We're talking to Chris Gethard. His new comedy special is Chris Gethard, Half My Life, which follows him on a comedy tour kind of right before the pandemic happened. And there's a really poignant scene where you're like in your car and you're near Detroit and you're kind of like wondering, I think you said something to the effect of like, I have a beautiful wife and child at home and I don't really know why I feel compelled to do this. Why are you compelled to do this, to go out and stand in front of people and perform comedy?
Well, the answer might be a little Hallmark card, but I've been thinking about it a lot. And it's something that I think you see in the special over and over again is it is a little strange to be 40 and to have made work in the past that's hip. And then to go, and now my act is a lot of like raising a kid and buying a house in the suburbs. And why am I sitting in traffic anymore? But the thing about doing the shows themselves, and I've actually been thinking about when I come back to live shows, committing to this even harder, is I say at one point in the special something I really think about a lot, which is there are all these people, they bought tickets to see me. That's a vote of confidence in me. That's very flattering. And those people, I hope all of them are having a great day. but it's probably not true. Somebody might be having a really bad day. And I think about being a comedian and what comedy should be for. It should not be about my ego. It should be about saying, who's that person who's having a bad day? And can I cheer them up for an hour tonight? Can I just make them forget whatever is bothering them for an hour? And that's one of the good sides of getting older, right? Is you kind of stop viewing life as you as the hero in the middle of some Joseph Campbell hero's journey. I think having a child also too. It's like my priorities, none of them are about me anymore. And as a creative person, that's actually very freeing and has my gears turning.
Well, speaking of which, there's a lot of the actual comedy in this special that's about where you're at in your life. The amazing description of a birthing class you and your wife went to with like a very memorable nurse from Long Island. I kind of got the sense that like you were excited to get back to being Chris Gethard, comedian, and not Chris Gethard, professional depressed person. Because like that's a whole part of your career that you've talked about and written about, but this was just jokes.
Yeah. And it's so astute. And you're actually the first person, as I've been promoting this, to kind of really sense that underlying aspect of this special. I did a special about my past with depression and suicidal ideation and even self-harm. And it was very meaningful to me. And a lot of people have told me it was meaningful to them, and that is great. But I do get asked pretty frequently to keep speaking on it. I've actually been offered money to write a book about it. I've been offered money to do speaking engagements about it. And I have turned those down because, I don't think it would be very kind to myself or an audience to just kind of commodify or exploit my pain any further. Like, I feel like I've said what I need to say. I feel like that special put it out there on the table. At this point, I'd just be making money off of the fact that other people are depressed and want to hear me talk about being depressed. It's not a moneymaker. And I also, to be that guy forever also means that I will have to dwell in it forever. And I'm doing a lot better in my life. So selfishly, it's a self-protective thing to go. I also just, sometimes I go to weird alligator theme parks in Orlando. And one time when I was growing up, a guy did something really crazy on the school bus. Like, those are jokes I work on. Those two in particular, I've worked on those for 7 or 8 years, predating career suicide by far. And I don't need to keep making money off of my pain, because at the end of the day, you're just exploiting the fact that other people have pain. I don't ever want to turn people suffering from mental illness into a demographic that lines my pocket. It would be gross.
Well, speaking of your memorable trip to a theme park in Orlando, there's a very memorable part of the film where you're talking about this place, Gatorland. And I mean, it's fascinating because, first of all, just like your description of this place is hilarious, but then there's this whole after story too about your relationship with the guy from the place. Can you just start with, without giving away too much from the special, I guess, talking a little bit about Gatorland and why it so captivated you?
Well, I've always really loved sort of like old school roadside places, architecture. I've driven Route 66 myself, I think twice by myself. And just those places that are kind of from a past that was a little more lawless and a little bit less corporate. And sometimes you like Florida alone, it also has Coral Castle. It also has the Weeki Wachee Mermaid Park. Like just Florida has these places that you're like, how do they still survive?
You are speaking Elena's language right now. She lives for this stuff.
I love it. And I actually worked in a magazine called Weird New Jersey that was kind of like focused on all this stuff in Jersey. And I just love that vibe. And Gatorland, I think, knocks that vibe out of the park. And also, I talk about how crazy Gatorland is. They also rescue animals that would otherwise be euthanized. Like, they do good stuff too. But the joke is, let's boil it down to the nuts parts. And luckily, they have a good sense of humor about the fact that there are many. They don't hide that.
Right. Well, that was the part that was surprising to me, because I guess you'd actually, I mean, the sort of gist of it is you're kind of juxtaposing Gatorland with Disney World and all of the things that are kind of great and slightly head scratching about Gatorland, like that you're allowed to feed the alligators just kind of wherever they might be, etc. And then you go and you do this bit on a live show on National Public Radio, which I'll mention is not this show,
No.
but a different one that I don't think is around anymore. Probably thanks to you, Chris.
Yes.
But
I'm so sorry. I'm so
no,
sorry.
you go on like the live radio, like 1 million people are listening, and like the people at Gatorland found out because the Orlando Sentinel wrote about it.
Yeah.
What happened with that?
First of all, yeah, it's probably that I had everything to do with that show getting canceled and not the continued financial squeeze of being in public radio. I'm sure that had nothing
We
to
haven't
do
heard
with it.
anything about the economics
100%.
of public radio. We've heard it was just you.
Yeah.
From what I hear, public radio is just hand over fist money at all
Printing
times.
money.
Scrooge
Printing.
McDuck
Yeah.
porpoising through money. Yeah.
All of it.
All the tote bags are just a fake out. They don't really need you to buy the tote bag. No. Yeah, I had no idea that 1 million people listened to that show. That was unfathomable to me. That was like, I've done TV
You're in
work.
no such danger on this program, by the way, Chris. Honestly, this will be a secret between you and me and Elena.
I've been biting my tongue the whole time. Well, it was the show that replaced
I think it was
Garrison
live
Keillor's
from
show.
here.
Live from
right?
here.
With actually our friend Chris Thiele. It was a great show. It's not around
It was
anymore,
great.
but it went out to a lot of folks.
Yeah, and I did not understand that. I should have asked a few questions. And it kind of blew up in my face. And when I saw, because the Orlando Sentinel, they never called me. All of a sudden, I just see this article comes up and I go, oh, I might get sued. I'm like trashing this place. But luckily, not only did they have an amazing sense of humor about it, and it turns out they actually, like, they do a whole Christmas Bigfoot thing every year. Like they're wild on their own.
Sure they do.
But I think they actually really appreciated the aspect of the joke that goes, look, Disney World is amazing. And I'm not claiming it's not. That's an amazing experience. I've brought my son there. My mom is one of these people who loves Disney World. It's amazing. And I love it. But there's also something to be said for drop your money on a place that lives on the fringe,
Right.
fringe of society. That's cool too. So I think they appreciated that side of the joke.
Yeah. And that's what I really appreciate about your work in general, Chris, and also this special is I feel like you're very careful to, like, none of it seems to be mean-spirited, which can kind of read as like it's tame, and it's not even that. It's just that, like, it doesn't seem like you feel the need to belittle anyone in any of these, various parts of your your stand-up special, which I thought was kind of cool. Even Gatorland, like, there's a real affection there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see the point of being mean. Comedy's supposed to make people happy. And to be fair, like Don Rickles, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And there's comedians in that vein now where I go have your career. And if there's an audience that loves you for it, it's just not me. And even when I get heckled, I really actually handle hecklers quite well. But very often it's because I will get self-deprecating in the face of it, where it's clear, like, you can't say anything mean enough to me that is meaner than what I can say about myself.
Self-heckling.
Yeah. And the cheesy thing too is I've had a poster on my wall for many years now that's this Woody Guthrie quote, and I'm gonna butcher it. A lot of people probably know it though. It's something along the lines of, like, I don't have any interest in making songs that beat you down, that make you feel bad about yourself. Like your jukebox, it's overloaded with songs like that. I want songs that pick you up. And that's a very boiled down, bullet point, less eloquent thing of what Woody Guthrie said. But when I first heard that quote, I said, yeah, like, it's got to be about the audience. It's got to be about the audience experience. And who wants to leave a comedy show feeling angrier than when they came in? And again, actually, some political comedians who can, like, put fire in people's guts, I applaud them. Absolutely. It's just, it's not me. I'd rather make you feel good. I'd rather make you feel like you forgot about your issues for a while.
I think that's so interesting. You're talking about your heckling, because there's this whole trend on the internet now that it's just like heckler owned by comic. And this is more like comic owns self after being heckled. Like, it's a very kind of like Buddhist approach to the whole thing.
I'd like to think so. You know, for someone who's always been kind of mentally unstable, I think I've always had a lot of tumultuous, like, I don't handle, how would I say it? Like, when emotions hit me, they get out of control fast. So let's go in the Zen direction. Let's learn how to do that. It's been very helpful in my life. And I've seen those videos too. I like a lot of them. I'll also say it's kind of in the comedy community. There's certain people who comedians look at those videos and go, it's kind of a well-known fact that you spend 10, 15 minutes baiting hecklers into a rage, and then you start the video at the point where they look stupid.
Oh man.
So there's actually like a thing in the comedy world. I think people actually view a lot of that style with a little bit of a side eye, because at the end of the day, it's not very honest, and it's a little bit easier. Like if you see a comedian who has 40 videos of them owning hecklers, you should probably ask yourself, why are you getting heckled so much? Why are you getting heckled so? Maybe it's something you're fomenting, and that's fine. I'll say it again. That's fine, but I know the magic trick to it, and it's just not of interest to me.
It's like pulling back the curtain behind the Gator Park, and you realize that all the gators are getting paid subsidies or something, like before there's time before the heckling video starts.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions of people making a living. Go do it, but there's more to everything than you often see. And again, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes on my show getting someone mad enough that I can then be a hero for defeating them. It's just I have other ways to spend my time, frankly.
Right, getting wrestled on stage, which is where we sort of started this conversation.
Making pancakes.
The pancake. People love a good pancake show.
When they can get one.
And that girl, I bet she felt great when she bested me on stage physically. I bet she was flying high. So yeah, each individual. I want to give everybody who ever buys a ticket to see me a pancake, or I want them to win a physical fight at my expense.
That's a Chris Gethard promise, y'all. Well, you're going to be out on the road again this summer and this fall, so people should get tickets to those shows if they're coming. They're going to be in the area, and everyone can check out Chris Gethard, Half My Life, the new comedy special. It's really great. Chris, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. It was fun to catch up with you.
Always. It actually has been a joy both times, and I thank you for the time.
All right. Thanks, man.